divided by r minus 6. Okay. So how should we start the problem? Okay, so we're doing a long division problem. We're dividing by r minus 6. So here's me kind of writing it like a long division problem. I'm dividing by r minus 6. I'm going to put that over here. Okay. Yeah, thank you. I need that magic. It's a calendar. It's not anything really that magical. Don't worry about it. You're good. And then what should I put underneath? Okay, so what gets written first? Okay.
When you do plus 0, r.
Yeah, so this one, it was written out of order and it had a missing term. So we have to make sure that the exponents are written in decreasing order, but we also have to make sure that all exponents are accounted for. So we have the fourth, the third, there's no exponent squared. So we have to put plus 0r squared. I have to make sure that one's accounted for, 0r squared. Okay, what comes after that? Plus r, okay, and then minus 11. Now, if there was no plain number on the end, that does count as a missing term, and you would have to put a plus 0 on the end. And I'm specifying that because it happens in today's activity where there is a problem where the missing term is the number on the end. Okay, so that happens in today's activity where there is that one as a missing term. Okay, so how do we start the problem off? We start with this one, and we ask ourselves a question. What do we ask ourselves? Yeah, r times what is r to the fourth? R to the third. So r times r to the third is r to the fourth. Okay? And then once you write that part on the top, what do you do next? Before you do that, yeah, you take the top part and you multiply it by both pieces and you line it up underneath. Okay? So r to the third times r is r to the fourth. We already knew that. And then r to the third times negative 6 is negative 6 r to the third. Okay? And then what do we do? Yeah, we're going to draw the line underneath. And we're going to change the sign because we're subtracting and change the sign because we're subtracting. And this problem is kind of a funky one, so if we want to do another problem after this, we can. So what happens with these first two terms? They cancel out. And then this is the funky part of this one. What happens with these next two terms? They also cancel out. That's not normal. That's not going to happen with every single problem. Okay, normally you would be able to do something here, but this time you can't because those cancel out. Okay, so normally you would have a term here, but we don't. And normally you would drop down the next term, and when we drop down the next term, it's 0r squared, so we actually have 3 zeros. Everyone see that? So we're just going to keep dropping down terms until we find a term that we can do something with. So we're going to drop down the next term, which is just a plain r. And because I have two terms in the front, because I am dividing by two things, I like to have two terms that I'm working with. So I'm going to drop down the negative 11 as well, because I like to be able to line up underneath two things. Does that make sense? I like to have two terms ready to go to line up with. Okay? All right, so now I'm going to ask myself that question again. What do I ask myself? Yeah, and I don't worry about the minus 6 and I don't worry about the minus 11. I only worry about the first part. So r multiplied by what is r? 1, okay? So then I'm just going to put the 1 there. So r multiplied by what? And it's a plus 1 because that's a positive 1. I'm not multiplying by a negative 1 to get that. I'm multiplying by a positive 1. So you can put a plus 1 if you want, or you can just put a 1. It doesn't matter, okay? All right, so r multiplied by 1 is r, and now I can take that 1 on top, and I'm multiplying that 1 by both terms, and I'm lining it up underneath both terms. Okay, so 1 multiplied by r is r, and 1 multiplied by negative 6 is negative 6. And then once I've lined them up, what do I do? So I'm drawing a line, I'm changing the signs because I'm subtracting, and that's what subtracting does. It changes the signs. Okay, so r minus r is 0, and negative 11 minus negative 6, or negative 11 plus 6, gives you what? Negative 5. Now, at this point, I know that I need to stop because r times nothing gives me just 5. Right, so that's where I know that I need to stop. So this negative 5 is a remainder. The stuff on top is my answer. This is my remainder. There's my fraction. So it's kind of a funky answer. You'll notice that oftentimes, not always, but oftentimes when you have a missing term, your answers are funky. That's pretty common, okay? Not always the truth, but I'd say like 70% of the time, 80% of the time, the missing terms give you funky answers, okay? All right, so we're going to say our answer is r to the third plus 1, and then since our remainder is negative, we're going to subtract the fraction at the end. So minus, what'd you say, Alex? This graph? There's our answer. Okay. So we're going to start a new sheet of paper because now we're moving on to starting the assignment for today. So go ahead and grab a fresh sheet of paper. Don't put your notes away. You're probably going to want to leave them out so you can reference them. So on the new sheet of paper, you're putting your name on the paper and you are writing the letter A. Putting your name on the paper and writing the letter A. So letter A, the problem is on that first card. So this is like the around the room activities, only we don't have to get up today. So if you're having a lazy day, I support you. We can still have a lazy day. Okay, so here is the card. It says this is the problem, this is what we're dividing. So I'm going to go ahead and write the problem on my paper. If you want to go ahead and fix the problem as you write it on your paper, that is fine. Okay, if you want to fix it as you write it on your paper, that's fine. So you have one stack of cards per group, but everybody should be doing the work on their individual papers. All right, so that's what card A said. How should I start the problem? The long division symbol, okay. So what do we write first? What comes next? 4x to the third. And then x squared. Okay. All right. So the first thing we ask ourselves is what? Perfect. So x times x to the third. X times x to the third is going to give you x to the fourth. So I'm writing an x to the third on the top. And then I take that x to the third, I multiply it by the two terms in front. And when I multiply it by each of the terms in front, what do I get? X to the fourth minus x to the third. Okay, and then what do I do? Yep, so I draw my line underneath, and then because I'm subtracting, I change the sign, So the first two terms give me 0, they should always give me 0. And then 4x to the third plus x to the third is 5x to the third. And I drop down the next term. Okay, so I'm only I'm only paying attention to the first term. And what do I ask myself? Yeah, x times what is 5x to the third? 5x squared. And then we take that 5x squared, we multiply it by the x minus 1 in the front, and we line it up underneath. So what do I get when I take the 5x and I multiply it by x minus 1? 5x to the third minus 5x squared, good. And then I draw the line, and I'm subtracting, so I change the sign, and I change the sign. And these subtract to give me 0, which they always will. And then x squared plus 5x squared is 6x squared. And I drop down the next term. Which 5?
6x squared.
This 6 right here? This 5? Because it was 5x squared times 1, which is 5x squared. So x times what is 6x squared? 6x. And then 6x times x minus 1. 6x squared minus 6x. We draw the line, change the sign, change the sign. Those give us 0. These give us negative 1x. Drop down the next term. Now you can see if you're rushing it, you have a lot of places you could make mistakes. Do you guys see that? So you can chat while you do these, but don't chat and go fast. Does that make sense? Or you can go kind of quick, but you got to be working quietly. So you can kind of, you got to kind of gauge how you do these. I don't mind if you chat today, but you just kind of got to be careful as you do these because there's a lot of room for mistakes with your signs or if you add something incorrectly or whatever. Yeah. So it's just like the activities we do around the room, but we're just doing it with cards instead. So next one would be negative 1. X times negative 1 is negative x. And then negative 1 times x minus 1 would be negative x plus 1. We draw the line underneath, and then since we're subtracting, we change the sign, change the sign, and our leftovers are -6. Is that what you guys got? Those of you who finished kind of fast, we got leftovers for -6. So we have x to the third plus 5x squared plus 6x minus 1. And then since our leftover is a negative, we're going to say minus, and then the fraction we get is 6 over x minus 1. So I have the A card is done. Now I'm looking for the card that has this listed as the previous answer. Goes to G. Yep. You're subtracting a positive 1, so -5 minus a positive 1 would be -6. So it goes to card G next. So, and each card only gets used once, except you are going to end up back at A at the end. So card A is basically going to be used again when you're back at the end. Okay, everyone understand how the cards work? So the tricks that you're going to watch out for are those missing terms and problems written in the wrong order. That's what you got to watch out for. That's the only trick. That's the only gotcha today, is if there's a missing term or if the card is written in the wrong order, if the problem's written in the wrong order and you don't notice. Okay, so just be careful to look out for that. Other than that, today is kind of monotonous. It's kind of tedious. It's the same thing over and over, okay? So if you want to chat while you work, you can chat while you work, but just be careful not to work too fast because you can easily make addition errors, subtraction errors, your sign mistakes with your pluses and minuses. Just be careful to watch out for that, okay? I am currently working on the answer key, so if you want to come up and check the order, let me know and you can come up and check the order, okay? Sound good? Okay. When we are done with this, there is a short worksheet. It has 4 problems on it of just problems that are a little bit more difficult than this. So I just wanted you guys to know that, just a heads up, that there is that, okay? So this activity plus 4 problems is what we're doing today in class. Cool? All right. I'll get some